In August of 1602, a new company was born in the Dutch Republic. On paper, it looked like a business. It sold shares, operated ships, and chased profits across distant oceans. But over the next 2 centuries, this company would command armies, conquer territory, overthrow rulers, and reshape the global economy. At its peak, the Dutch East India Company was not merely a trading enterprise. It was one of the most powerful organizations the world had ever seen. The story begins during the Age of Exploration. European demand for spices had exploded. Pepper, cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon were worth fortunes. A handful of islands in Southeast Asia produced many of these valuable goods, and whoever controlled those trade routes could become incredibly wealthy. Dutch merchants saw an opportunity. Rather than competing against each other, several trading ventures merged into a single organization known as the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, or VOC. Investors poured money into the project, creating what many historians consider the world's first major publicly traded corporation. At first, the company focused on commerce. Fleets of ships sailed thousands of miles from Europe to Asia carrying silver and returning with valuable cargo. The profits were enormous, but trade alone was not enough. Competition from other European powers threatened those profits, and company leaders decided to protect their interests by force. This was the turning point. Unlike ordinary businesses, the VOC received extraordinary powers from the Dutch government. It could sign treaties, build forts, wage war, and govern overseas territories. In effect, a private company had been granted many of the powers normally reserved for a sovereign state. Across Asia, the company began constructing a vast commercial empire. Fortified ports appeared along strategic trade routes. Armed ships patrolled key waterways. Local rulers were pressured into agreements that favored Dutch interests. When diplomacy failed, military force often followed. One of the most dramatic examples occurred in the Banda Islands, a small chain of islands in present-day Indonesia. These islands were among the world's only sources of nutmeg, a spice so valuable that it could sell for many times its weight in precious metals. Company officials became obsessed with securing a monopoly over the trade. When local communities resisted Dutch control, the VOC launched military campaigns to crush opposition. Entire populations were displaced, and control of the spice trade was consolidated under company authority. The profits flowed back to shareholders in Europe, while the people living on the islands paid a devastating price. The wealth generated by the VOC transformed the Dutch Republic. Amsterdam became one of the richest cities on earth. Merchants built grand canal houses. Shipyards expanded. Banks flourished. Art, science, and commerce entered a golden age, fueled in part by global trade networks stretching across continents. Yet beneath the success, serious problems were growing. The company governed enormous territories separated by vast oceans. Corruption spread through its administration. Officials enriched themselves through private deals. Maintaining forts, fleets, and military garrisons became increasingly expensive. Every new conquest required additional resources to defend. At the same time, rivals were becoming stronger. The British East India Company expanded aggressively throughout Asia. European conflicts spilled into overseas colonies. Competition intensified, reducing profits and increasing costs. The very structure that had made the VOC powerful also made it vulnerable. It was expected to function as both a corporation and an empire. Shareholders demanded profits, while administrators struggled to manage distant territories, complex political relationships, and constant military obligations. By the 18th century, warning signs were impossible to ignore. Debt mounted, corruption scandals multiplied, operational costs soared. The company still controlled vast networks, but maintaining them consumed more money than they generated. Then came a series of devastating setbacks. Wars disrupted trade routes, economic conditions deteriorated. Revenues declined while obligations continued to grow. What had once been an unstoppable commercial machine gradually lost its momentum. In 1799, after nearly 2 centuries of operation, the Dutch East India Company officially collapsed. Its debts were absorbed by the Dutch state, and many of its territories passed under direct government control. The world's most powerful trading company was gone, yet its legacy remains everywhere. The VOC helped pioneer modern stock markets, multinational corporations, and global investment systems. Many of the financial structures used today can trace part of their history back to this remarkable organization. At the same time, its story reveals a darker truth about the relationship between wealth and power. The Dutch East India Company was created to sell spices. It ended up ruling territories, commanding armies, and influencing the lives of millions. In the pursuit of profit, a corporation became something far larger than a business. And in the end, the same ambition that built its empire became the force that brought it down.